Okay, I've read this book before, Constellations by David White. Sometimes he's a little lengthy, but he gets the point across. And I have been thinking so much about how much help I have received lately with a variety of things, and how much help my daughters have needed in their, having an accident and needing to come back to America and all that. So um, I just marvel at how we are supposed to be these independent beings in our culture, and we really just aren't. So I think it's very fitting, Christine, what Senior Planet. Did I get that right? Yeah, Senior
Yeah.
Planet. So um, anyway, I think it's kind of beautiful that we can appreciate help when we need it, and this is his musings on help. Okay, so. Help is a strangely something we want to do without, as if the very idea disturbs and blurs the boundaries of our individual endeavors, as if we cannot face how much we need in order to go on. We are born with an absolute necessity for help, grow well only with a continuous succession of extended hands, and as adults depend upon each other for our further successes and possibilities in life, as if even as competent individuals. Even the most solitary writer needs a reader, the most Machiavellian mobster, a trusted lieutenant, the most independent candidate, a voter. Not only does the need for help never leave us alone, but we must appreciate ourselves to its different necessary forms at each particular threshold of our lives. At every stage, we are dependent on our ability to ask for specific forms of help at very specific times and in very specific ways. Even at the end of our life, the dignity of our going depends on others' willingness to help us die well. The sincerity of their help often commensurate to the help we extended to them in our own life. Every transformation has at its heart the need to ask for the right kind of generosity. Every transformation has at its heart the need to ask for the right kind of generosity. An impending birth certainly means we look for aid, a place for it to occur, midwives, a doctor, a husband, or a partner to be present, a nest in which to welcome the child, a job to support a new life. And the one who is born needs endless help: food from the breast, walking and carrying at night, changes, washes, clothes, and a great deal of cooing and clucking. The parents of those who need help need another kind of help themselves, their very own parents, parents of other children, playmates for the child, sometimes copious amounts of red wine and never ending amounts of sleep. They also need a new perspective, a new imagination for the next stage of their own relationship. Logics loom over all, hands are full, but the relationship itself needs a helping hand. This overwhelming need for help never really changes in a human life from the first day we are brought from the womb, calling lustily for that commodity. We need extraordinary physical help to get through our first years, continued help through our childhood, and extraordinary emotional help and good luck to get through our adolescence. After that, the need for continual help becomes more subtle, hidden, as it is by the illusion that we are suddenly free agents able to survive on our own, and one corner of the universe able to supply its own answers. It may be that the ability to know the necessity for help, to know how to look for that help, and then most importantly, how to ask for it, is one of the primary transformative dynamics that allows us to emancipate ourselves into each new epoch of our lives. Without the understanding that we need a particular form of aid at every crucial threshold of our lives, and without the robust vulnerability in the asking for that help, we cannot pass through the door that bars us from the next dispensation of our lives. We cannot birth ourselves. To ask for help and to ask for the right kind of help, and to feel that it is no less than our due as a live human being to feel and affect that we deserve it, may be the engine of transformation itself. Our greatest vulnerability is the very door through which we must pass in order to open the next horizon of our lives. And we cannot do this alone. We need help. In the end comes also our beginning, the ancient sense of a door opening to some final unknown, some invisible voice attempting to help us come to terms with our own disappearance. The hand extended to help us over a horizon equally as mysterious as the one we crossed at our birth. So I kind of read that fast and a little sloppily, sorry, but as you close your eyes and sit up straight and tall, take a moment to recognize the vast amount of people that you can start acknowledging in your mind that have helped you. And it doesn't have to be linear. You don't have to start at the beginning and end at today, but just what bubbles up, who arises as people that have given you help in times of need. And let's have a moment of deep acknowledgement for these people, a deep sense of gratitude for the help that we have received. Most of us probably can identify with the sensation of giving is easier than receiving, that it's easier and feels comfortable and good to offer help, but to ask for is very vulnerable and difficult. So let's take a moment to not only acknowledge the people that have helped you, but for the asking itself. Have acknowledge and have gratitude for yourself when you've been able to ask for help instead of having other people have to anticipate your needs. And recognize if there's any part of you that has resistance to receiving for whatever reason, many reasons, right? But kind of check in with yourself about that as you close your eyes and breathe and see what's there. You know, what is it about it that's difficult? Is it not wanting to be a burden? Is it not wanting to admit not being able to handle something on your own? Is it feeling like a tally? Many other ways that you can kind of have resistance, not wanting to be a bother. So recognize that and then flip the tide and notice how that would feel when you are offering help. Notice if those same resistances just dissolve when the experience is about giving. Do you have any feeling of burden from giving? Do you have any feeling of tallying or any feeling of resistance in any way? And probably much less, right? So just pay attention to the weird conditioning that we've all had to be independent, and to not acknowledge our interdependence. And then imagine your life, our society, if we were fully emancipated from this weird barrier that we create about independence. Imagine fences dropping down, imagine cooperation. Imagine whenever there was a need that you could ask for help without any difficulty at all. What does that feel like? Do you sense connection in that imagining? Do you feel the beautiful quality of interdependence? And as you imagine that, just sit with that resonance. The, instead of being independent all the time, imagine this interdependence. and the weaving and the threading of our lives within that. Put your hands together. Again, this deep sense of gratitude, acknowledging all the help we've received. And instead of feeling a sense of debt, feel a sense of gratitude and a sense of connection to this person or these people. Just your hands. Take a deep breath in. And let's find our way onto our back. All right, so your yoga homework this week is going to be to ask for help in something that I guarantee everybody needs a little help with something this week, right? So mull that over a little bit as we practice. You know, what have you been resistant to ask for help? Is it emotional support? Is it a job at your house that you need help with? Is it something that you can't figure out? Is it someone who can take a burden away from you so you can have an hour of rest? Is it helping you in any way? So just think about what it is that you could use some help with, and think about who you might ask for that help. And then find a sense of connection with the person that you're going to ask. Before you even do the asking, see if you can notice the ties that bind us, the weaving of interdependence that you have with this person. It might be a total stranger. It might be calling for somebody to clean your gutters, right? So, but even that is an interdependent relationship. So just mull that over a little bit. You don't have to make decisions right now. And then stretch your arms overhead and feel this beautiful reaching of length and space, finding the right side and the left side, and just enjoying the beauty of moving your body, awakening your body. And then draw your knees into your chest, and let's rock a little bit, swaying from side to side. Let's circle the knees, kind of rolling your knees in one direction. Okay, rolling your knees in another direction. Full breaths. All right, let's roll our knees third direction, opening up the knees away from the midline, bringing them back in. Okay, and then right knee coming into your chest. Give some rolling down to your ankles, feeling that freedom come into your feet. Get a nice good squeeze of your knee into your chest. And let's switch sides. Left knee coming in, right leg long on the ground, and feel that movement. Wiggling your toes, rolling through your ankles, maybe a little flex and point. Good hearty squeeze of that knee into your chest. Stretch your limbs wide on the ground and feel that opening through your whole body. Wiggle your fingers and toes while you're out there. And then on your next exhale, draw your knees into your chest. Pick up your head and give a good snug hug. And then release your head down onto the ground. Put your feet on the ground, arms straight out to the sides. Let's windshield wiper our knees and just come into a little bit of movement of our spine. Enjoying moving, and you can kind of go a little deeper into twisting if you want, or a little more shallow. Just kind of find your spine here. All right, and then relax. We're going to put our feet on the ground, pelvis on the ground. Let's roll through a couple of moving bridges. Inhale, lifting the pelvis up, arms come up overhead. And as we exhale, we lower the pelvis down, arms down to your sides. Okay, twice more. Feeling that beautiful lift of the hips, grounding through the four corners of your feet, waking up your legs a little bit. Exhale, lowering your body down. One more time, reaching the arms up overhead pelvis lifting. And then exhale and lower your body back down. We're gonna grab a block. Okay? Hug the block between your thighs, and you can put it at whatever width and wherever you want it. We're just gonna have a moment of stabilizing our pelvis. So ground the four corners of your feet. And as we hug the block in with our legs, keep your outer feet grounded on the ground. So pay attention to your outer feet as you hug the block, kind of turning on some deep intrinsic stability in the pelvis. Relax and melt. Maybe do a couple, 3 passes of squeezing the block and then releasing the block. Doesn't have to be everything you've got, but just notice the deep transverse abdominis turning on in your belly, that sense of your pelvic floor stabilizing. Notice if your glutes want to take over, try not to let your glutes do all the work. And then when you're ready, relax. Go ahead and release the block out of there. One more time, feeling a big open stretch on the ground. Exhale, knees into your chest. Pick up your head and let your back round. Just hang out here for a moment. Keep your head picked up. And then put your head down. Keep your knees in. Let's come to either just hanging out here with your knees, or maybe a little bit deeper of a forward fold where you grab onto your feet and let your knees drop down toward your ribs for a happy baby pose. This is a very big stretch for the lumbar spine. So just notice what your vertebrae and your low back are, what's happening there in the beginning of our practice. Maybe a little rocking, maybe a little stillness. All right, and then we're going to open up the left. So hold on, if you can hold on to your toes, try holding onto your toes. We're going to open the left leg straight out to the left. Let your body tip a little bit if you want to. Just kind of find some ease as you open up the inner groin of that leg. And then come back to center and bend your left knee. And now your right leg is going to straighten. And if you can't reach your toes, just grab your pants or your leg somewhere. There's no rules about how deep into this you want to go. We're just opening up the inner hamstrings and the inner thigh muscles. And then come back to that happy baby pose and stretch out one more time to a big star on the ground, reaching the limbs wide. Exhale, knees into your chest, and then roll to your side and come up to your hands and your knees. Okay, so always analyze, what feels good in your body to warm up with. And what I offer does not have to be what you do. So you might find that some things are aggravating and you need to make some adjustments. So try to get to know your body and always modify everything you can to make it just right for the day. Let's start moving through some cat-cows, arching through your back and rounding through your spine, feeling that beautiful movement of your vertebrae. See if you can feel that full ripple through your spine. And again, just kind of check in. How's your back feeling today? How, are there any spots that you get to along this journey of cat-cow that you feel some vulnerability and you might need to have a little help, some recruitment in your body? And then flatten your back. Let's wag your tail like a dog, just a happy dog. Wag your tail, and you can do it faster or slower, whatever feels good, and just notice what's happening. And now we'll do some pelvic circling. So we're gonna imagine a paintbrush on our tailbone and draw a circle on the wall behind you. So the pelvis is gonna move a fair amount as you roll through this movement. Notice what's feeling good. Maybe there's some little catches or vulnerability somewhere in your SI joint or your low back. Let's go ahead and spin the circle that you're drawing the other direction. And I didn't say which way to go, so this is probably the pathway less traveled in your body. So just pay attention to that. And then stretch back towards child's pose and walk the hands far out in front of you and start to let the shoulders open up a little bit. And, imagine that you're dropping all your weight into your right, and then you're dropping all your weight into your left. So there's this little movement and meeting between the two sides, both in your hips, your legs, but also in your shoulders and your arms, kind of gripping the ground and then transferring weight to the other side.
And then eventually fall into stillness in this child's pose. Let your head melt. Breathe your breath all the way down your spine. Imagine that your breath is on the anterior portion of your spine, like bubbles that are rippling up from below that can touch your spine all the way down from your crown to your tail. And come back up onto all fours. Gently move your body however your body's asking to be moved. Curl the toes under, stretch back like child's pose, but keep your ankles touching, your feet, toes touching so that you have this openness in the feet. And come back onto all fours. Let's now turn that spiral of circling into your rib cage. So ribs over to the right, down toward the floor, over to the left, up toward the sky. So accentuate this deep circling in your thoracic spine and in your ribs. Notice if you hold your breath, try not to hold your breath. Keep the breath moving as you rotate and move. And then maybe switch directions and do your circles the other way. Big breaths. All right, and then finally, let's do a little bit of circling with the head. And not everybody's comfortable with head circles. They're not always the easiest or healthiest thing for cervical vertebrae. So do tiny circles or just maybe ear to shoulder. And then eventually we're going to just put all these spirals together. So try not to think too much, but let your tail and your ribs and your head kind of find their spiral and notice how they interrelate with each other. Big breaths. Back towards child's pose one more time. So just, notice the warming of your spine. How is this making you feel? And then come back up onto all fours and let's take a deeper twist here. Right arm lifting up to the sky. Exhale, slide that arm under and let the twist kind of take over. So, we've done a lot of flexion and extension and kind of spiraling movements in our spine. But this is a deeper spiral, one way trip kind of rolling into one direction. Again, deep, full breaths. And then inhale, reach that arm all the way back up in the air. Hand comes down onto the ground. Second side, arm lifting high. Exhale and slide that arm under. Big breaths. Heavy head. And then inhale and reach that arm back up in the air. And the hand comes down onto the ground and find dog pose. So one of the beautiful ways that this kind of sacred presence that we develop with ourselves in our practice, the more we get to know ourselves, when it comes to this asking for help, if we're very honed into what our needs are, it becomes much easier to be specific. And the same holds true with our bodies. The more we hone into understanding, oh, this is my challenge with my, pinky toe or whatever it is, then we know how to ask for help even within ourselves, how to ask for support from our body. And then walk your feet forward, come to Uttanasana. And of course, the same holds true. The more we get to know our minds, the more we get to know our emotional states, the more our asking for help can be very specific. All right, so lengthen through your spine, breathing deeply, and exhale and fold deeply again. Push off your feet. Now remember, if you're dizzy, you can always make an adjustment, come up halfway, pause there, squeeze to the midline, whatever it is that your body needs. And let's come to Tadasana and just enjoy standing for a moment. And let's wake up our feet. So let's roll onto our toes and back onto our heels. A little bit of beginning balance work here. Breathing deeply. And then just notice what your calves are feeling. I'm hoping they're starting to get, a little pumping with blood, maybe even a little fatigue as you come up onto your toes and back onto your heels. And then pause here for a moment, feet grounded on the ground. Open up your breath. Relax your shoulders. Deep breath in, reaching the arms up overhead. Maybe let's cactus, open the arms here, a little back body squeeze. And then inhale, reach up high, and exhale and fold forward. Start to feel your body in space. A halfway lift, getting longer. Exhale, melting a little deeper. Relax your head. Step back to dog pose, feeling that long spine again. Pedal your feet here, maybe a little bit, dropping one heel, opening up those calves. Finding breath. Inhale, come forward into a plank, holding yourself steady, grounding into the index finger mounds a little bit more, feeling the core support you. Imagine a block between your thighs. And then put your knees down onto the ground and find fear. Whole bunch of shoulder rolls here. Just get those shoulders to loosen up. If you were, maybe you were here yesterday and felt, I hope your shoulders felt good all day. Take a deep breath in, open up through your chest, a little bit of a back bend. Exhale and melt again. Let's repeat. And of course, you can do a bit different variation. What does your body want? How can you help yourself? Come up on tall fours. Move your spine around a little bit. And we're going to grab a block. We're going to put it between our shins on the ground. You can either have it, this way between your shins or this way, kind of just depending on what feels comfortable for your body. So we're finding all fours, a nice gentle hug of the block at our shins. And just notice a little bit of turning on of your pelvic floor. Kind of recruiting those deeper helpers in the body. We tend to rely on big muscle groups, so let's kind of refine and find some little smaller muscles that can really help to support us. Arch the back a little bit, so cat-cows, tail up, head up, release a little tension on the block, and then as you exhale and round the spine, a little bit more tension hugging the block. Okay. A couple of times, moving through this cat-cow, a little release on the back bend, a little compression onto that block as you round the spine. Okay, keep the block there if you can manage it. Curl your toes under and lift to dog pose. And just notice, what's here when you have something to hug against. You can, of course, adjust it at your shins. Let's isometrically try to drag the feet apart from each other to grip your toe beds, pull them outward, and at the same time hug the block. Start to feel a little different sensation in your hips, perhaps. And then we're gonna wobble our way forward. Block is still between our shins. You can adjust it if it gets a little wonky. Bend your knees and let your back open. Inhale for a halfway lift. You can use your other block on under your hands. Feel that extension. While you're in this halfway lift, ground the four corners of your feet. See if you can stay rooted in your feet. That gentle hugging of the block. Lift the sit bones and lengthen the spine. Exhale and release. Fold. Come on up. Standing still with that block in between your shins. Reaching the arms up. Find the breath. And then exhale and trace down through the center. Now notice when you have this block, something probably is different in your pelvic floor than when you don't have a block. But let's see if we can not just grip, grip, grip. So find a subtleness. See if there's a little bit of the capacity to roll your inner thighs back as you hug the block. Ground the four corners of your feet. Take a deep breath in. We're going to come into a chair pose with this block right here. So squat down. Often we do this with the block between our thighs. So notice the subtle little difference with the block between your shins. Reach the arms up overhead and notice the lighting up of your pelvic floor. So just subtle, like we're just recruiting a little extra musculature. Find your breath. Draw your knees back. Of course, you can always bring your hands to your heart or have your hands on your hips or wherever you want them to be. And we're going to slowly stand up and see if you can come up onto your tippy toes with that block between your shins. And when you do so, where does the block go? Do you have the desire to pull your heels in and kind of turn your legs out and the block pushes forward? Can you instead have a little inner spiral of the upper thighs, keeping that neutrality of the block? And then relax your feet down. Let's go ahead and take the block now in between our thighs. Okay, so finding a little bit higher up support. Now our legs have a different feeling. And let's repeat. So come into a chair pose with this block between our thighs. You can bring your arms up. You can bring your arms out or down, whichever feels good to your body. Hug the block gently, a little inner spiral of the thighs. Notice if this changes your awareness of the recruitment of your pelvic floor. Find your breath. And we're going to lift the heels off the ground while we're in chair pose. Hug the block gently. Finding breathing. Bring your arms out to the sides for a little extra balance support. Hug your floating ribs in just a little bit more. And then we're going to come up slowly to stand on our tippy toes. So practicing some balance. Notice if your block wants to push forward, instead roll it back. And then release your feet down onto the ground. If you're not at the front of your mat, just keep the block there, take a step. We're going to do a vinyasa with the block. Sometimes, having the support between our legs can really shift the dynamic of support that we feel in our bodies. So just pay attention as we move. Inhale, open up a little bit of a back lean if you want to. And then exhale, folding forward. Let the blocks spin out behind you if it's going to go anywhere. Inhale for a halfway lift, growing longer. Hand can be on the other block. Exhale, fold. Now, you could jump back or you could wobble, wobble, wobble back like penguin, right? Come into dog pose. I feel the difference. Having the block in your thighs versus your shins, inner thighs rolling back, feel into the roundedness. The block does not have to be vice gripped, but have a sense of support. Enjoy that it's there. Okay, let's come forward into a plank, holding yourself steady, root into the hands while index finger mounts, thumb mounts. Hug your hands toward each other, shoulders away from the ears, collarbones broad. A gentle hugging of the block still would go up toward the sky instead of down toward the ground if it fell. Okay, go ahead and release that block. You can go ahead and take it out of there now. Come back to child's pose. Feel a sense of softness, surrender here. And we'll slide forward and come onto our belly. Put your hands underneath your head, your forehead for a moment. Lift up your legs and bring them wider on the mat so you can feel the toes touch the edges of the mat. So now our legs are not hugging in toward the midline. Give your pelvis just a little bit of rocking. Release what you can. Kneecaps are facing the floor. Tops of feet are on the ground. We're going to lift up your legs and now start to feel your outer hips start to kick into gear. Find your breath, your head can rest down. And exhale and release. Lift up your legs and turn them out. So now we have an inner spiral, now we're going to have the outer spiral. So rest kind of on the inner edge of your kneecap. So you're turned out a little bit. My inner feet or what are resting on the floor instead of the top of my feet on the floor. Head can stay down on those hands. Inhale and lift your legs again. Notice the change when you have that external rotation. And then exhale and release. Bring your knees to neutral. Pick your feet up and just windshield wiper your knees. Let go, relax a little bit. Come on up. Finding breath. Wag your tail. You can move through dog pose and walk forward, or if you prefer, you can just come to stand. Okay. However you want to get up into the standing pose. And we're going to take our legs wide. So, we've done a lot of work to kind of move through our pelvis here. Now let's see if we can invite that awareness and recruitment when we have, a much broader base of support underneath us. Turn your right foot out and let's move our way into some movement into Virabhadrasana 2 and then back again. So finding your breath. And maybe this third time we can come in to stay. So grounding into the four corners of your feet. Notice how wide you are. Feel those outer hip muscles recruit, but can you still imagine that drawing in toward the midline, that kind of sense that our pelvic floor can have some activation even when our legs are super wide. So imagine that you were on ice skates and your legs were kind of flying out and you were trying to prevent yourself from flying out. That pulling in that would happen right at the pelvis. See if you can get the sense that you want to draw your feet toward each other in this posture. Full breaths here. And let's reverse your warrior and feel that beautiful side body stretch. And then come down into Parsvakonasana, arm overhead. Enjoy this. It's such a nice stretch through the side of your body. Rooting into your feet. A lot of times we push the floor away and we don't even realize that we're kind of spreading our legs wide as we push the floor away. So instead, see if you can hug the feet toward each other and just notice what changes. You didn't really move, but certainly the way your body is functioning to support yourself had a shift. So notice that pelvic floor. Breathe deeply. Can you feel both the rooting into the ground and the drawing in toward each other? And then come back up. Let's turn our feet to the other side for these same poses. Arms up, legs straight. Just kind of sneak in and out of the pose a little bit so you just get your body used to being in this shape. And then when you're ready, find Virabhadrasana 2 here. Relax your shoulders. Feel the sense of opening your heart to your hands, the crown and tail long, the feet grounding, rooting, push them straight into the earth. Now once you have, all this space and support, what might it feel like to imagine that you're on ice skates again and you have to pull in toward the midline of the body so that you don't splay out. Breathing deeply, feeling those underbelly muscles, your hamstrings, your inner thighs, your pelvic floor. You ready? Reverse your warrior and enjoy all that space and openness. Full breaths. And then find Parsvakonasana on this side. Drop into your legs, reach that arm overhead and enjoy the side body stretch. Again, find the feet dropping straight into the earth and then a little bit of a hugging toward the center. Notice if there's anything that grips that doesn't have to, like the base of your skull or your hands. Can you keep your breath moving fluidly? And then come back up. Point your legs straight for a moment. Standing star. Your toes can turn out a little bit. They don't have to be turned straight forward. Just have your legs straight forward. Big breath. Now let's come into a goddess pose with this same feeling where as we come down, we're not spread. We are, our body is going wide, but can you have that drawing in toward the center? So a lot of times we spin the jar lids with our feet. So Grounding the four corners of your feet, pull your toes back and your heels forward, and this will turn on a lot of outer hip muscles. Do that, and then see what it might feel like to suction your feet right to the center. Finding breath. So much recruitment. There's a lot of muscles to support you. It doesn't have to just be your quads. All right, and stand up straight. Turn your feet straight forward now. Pause, reach the hands down onto the blocks. Maybe onto the ground. Let your back open up. Breathing well. And just like we did on our back in the beginning, let's bend our right knee and just let the inner thigh of that left leg open. Coming back to center and switching sides. A lot of times when we try to access this recruitment of the pelvic floor, our inner thighs get a lot of strengthening, which is good. So let's just open them up here a little bit. And then come back. Turn your feet out a little bit. We're going to come to a nice wide squat. Elbows inside your knees. Torso is facing the ground. Root into the four corners of your feet. Same things apply. Toes draw back, heels forward. All right, and then release out of there. We're going to come up to a little bit wider or a little bit narrower of a squat. So your feet can turn out or your feet can turn in. And let's do 5 squats up and down, and then we're going to come to a deep squat and hold it to kind of just open up our pelvic floor. So first, just finding the knees and then up. And you go, adjust your legs to be the right angles for your body. You don't have to come all the way up. You don't have to come all the way down. You don't have to do this arm position. Whatever feels good for your body. Notice if you tend to bear weight into one leg more than the other. See if you can find balance. And then we're going to come and hang out here. Elbows can, maybe even hold the outer, bring your legs a little closer and put your hands on the outer knees. So our torso is facing the floor. Ground the inner feet. Push your knees into your hands. Finding breath. And then release. And if you're not facing the front of your mat, turn to the front of your mat. Come to dog pose. Have your feet to the edges of your mat. We're going to prepare for a deeper squat now. Internally rotate your feet. Internally rotate your thighs. A wide pelvic floor. Come back to neutral. Come forward into a plank. Find the ground. Choose your back bend. Anything you feel like doing. All right, come back up on tall fours. Swish your spine around. And let's find a deep child's pose. So compress into your hips really well. Find that breath traveling down your spine again. All right, and then we're going to come up. You can do this sitting on a block if you'd like, or being in space. And a lot of this depends on how your pelvic floor feels, how your knees are doing, how your hips, your ankles. There's lots of things that can get in the way of a deep squat. So, but if you can, your feet are going to be on the ground. We're going to come all the way down. And if this is too much pressure on your pelvic floor, then I highly encourage you to put a block under your pelvis, under your sit bones, so that we have that support. And if your knees don't deeply flex like this, then get higher, maybe stack 2 blocks. Just find where your deepest squat can be helpful to you. So it doesn't have to be hanging in space, but it very much can be. One of the things that Neva Maya shared a lot with me about being in Asia for a few months is that, Asian people live in this position a lot. They prepare food like this. There's so much just hanging out and talking to each other in deep squats. And it's not something we do in our culture here enough. So allow yourself to just be here to the best of your ability. If your hips or knees or ankles are talking to you, modify. If your pelvic floor is talking to you, modify. See if you can keep your chest a little bit lifted. Come out of the posture, bring your knees onto the floor and come back to the same poses we did in the beginning with our cat cow. So first just wag your tail, lefty righty. Maybe you want to invite some circles into your spine. Just find what feels good. It might be hard to move your spine after a deep squat, and it's a lot for our bodies if we're not used to it. So let your body kind of take this posture however you're ready to receive it. Okay, we're gonna come into pigeon pose, or of course, reverse pigeon pose, or lying on your back with one thigh crossed over the other thigh. So whatever is your favorite hip stretch to do. I'll cue pigeon, but you do you. Right leg in front. You can have your pubic bone, your heel close to your pubic bone or pulled out a little bit. Pay attention to the back leg. Try to have it straight back from your hip instead of angled out. Try to have your kneecap on the ground. Maybe your toes curl under. Maybe your foot is straight, whatever works. But we're having that leg in the angle in the same line as your pelvis. Reaching into maybe a little bit of a back bend. You can have hands on blocks and extend if it feels nice. And then find your way down into pigeon pose. Feeling a little support underneath your head with a block, if it's helpful. Finding the fullness of your breath. Now, just like we were hugging toward the midline in those standing poses, imagine those ice skates are on your knees now and see if you can prevent the splaying out. Draw your knees, hug them into your pelvis. Hug both your knees, plug your femur bones into your pelvis. Feel that support, square the hips, lengthen your spine with this support. And then relax that. And let's switch sides. You can transition with the dog pose or just change your legs. If you're on your back, switch your legs. Again, always pay attention to the fact that your two sides are not the same. And we have different patternings in the two sides of our body. So you might have a different position with your legs. Your heel might be closer to your pubic bone or further away. You might need to adjust with some more height of blankets underneath you. Just find what's needed. Feel a little bit of length here. And then when you feel ready, lengthen your spine to come down. So we're not just collapsing toward the ground. A block under your head can be very helpful. Squaring the pelvis. Feeling the length of the spine. Melt what you can. Maybe your diaphragm or your hands or your eyes. Feeling your way into the fullness of your breath. And again, to kind of complete the pose, plug your knees into your pelvis. Feel that kind of upward lift, like you could be self-supporting. You don't have to fall to the ground. Let's relax that. Let's all find our way out of the pose. Okay, so dog pose if that feels good. Or you can just come onto your back. So however you want to transition. Grab a block. Feet are on the ground. Okay, so just like we did in the beginning, Stick a block in a comfortable position in between your thighs somewhere. Feel your feet hip width apart, grounding. Root into the outside edges of your feet. Relax your upper body onto the ground. A gentle squeeze of the block while the outer feet stay rooted, and then a release. And engagement, and then a release. And one more time, engagement, and then a release. Pause here, just let your body breathe. And then let's do a simple twist to kind of release our spine. Lift your hips up, scoot them to the right. We'll bring our knees up and drop them to the left. And just let your body open up into a twist. Sometimes this pelvic floor work and the deep squatting, we can overdo, and our back can kind of get a lot of pressure from some of these poses. So notice, what your body feels like right now. Did you maybe do a little too much? Are you okay? Just paying attention to how the spine feels. Let's scoot the hips over to the other side. Knees come up, drop them, twist open. All right, and then come on up, feet on the ground, neutral spine, and then just ask yourself what you need. Sometimes a supported bridge can feel nice after the work we've just done. That can be very releasing for the spine. Sometimes knees to the chest, or a happy baby pose, or even some rocking plow can feel really nice. Sometimes grounding your feet, picking up your pelvis to a bridge and shaking your hips and your ribs can feel really nice. Sometimes the block under the pelvis and lifting your legs up and getting a little bit of that traction through the spine and leg up the wall can feel really nice. So just to, experiment with what you think your body needs. One of the best things about yoga is the exploratory nature of it, that there's no linear path, that you can just kind of follow and meander within your body and think to yourself, maybe that'll feel good, and try it. And maybe it didn't feel good, and you're like, nope, that was not the right pathway. There's only one way to kind of figure out the patterns in your body of what feels good and releases and strengthens you and what might be irritating to you. The only way is to practice and to observe and to pay attention. So when you find things that really work for you, remember them, take notes so that you can start to put into practice patterns of movement that are very healthy and good for you. And of course, subject to change always, because we're constantly shifting sands, but I hope you have found things in your practice that are, consistent friends to your mind and body. Sometimes when we ask for help, it can be from the self. We can ask ourselves for help, and carving out space for your practices, listening to the things that make you feel good and incorporating them into your life regularly. These are the things that we ask ourselves for help for. Okay, when you're ready, there's zero rush, but when you are, Shavasana is here. Allow your body to rest. If you're not already there, and find your way onto the ground, feeling a sense of ease. Deepen our breathing. Feel your breath travel through your body. Move in whatever way serves you. Coming up to sit as you feel comfortable. Take your time rolling to your side. Let's bring our hands together and our heart. And again, deep gratitude for whoever's kind of streaming into your thoughts, who has been sincerely helpful to you in your life. As we offer our energy outward, let's just sense into this interconnectedness, this, web that we are to and for each other. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.